Today's video we are gonna react to is the most controversial melee match in history. So yeah, let's check it out. It's a pretty old match now, but another video we got recommended, suggested to us. So let's check it out. Maybe a little bit of a weird start.
Individuals, organizations, sports, and of course, esports. And while in sports, controversy can come from an individual player's actions, a lot of the time it'll be things that happen in the game, especially around the rules. Whether it's an ambiguous ruling or an
that
abuse of the
Henri
rules,
one,
or even every organization.
I really liked that player as a kid.
A bad ref call. But today, I want to tell you about one of the most iconic ref, or I guess TO calls in Smash history. The IMO should be replayed moment. And also to do a never before done deep dive into the match to see if the call by this TO was the right one.
IMO should be replayed. It's a pretty iconic line. Can't lie.
You see, while today controllers are insane, going for hundreds to have the latest in controllinator technology, back in the day there wasn't all that much modding for controllers. But there was still a fever to have the fabled good controller among the top players. Why did top players make such a fuss over their controllers? Well, it's thanks to the lovingly crafted Melee code. Look, I'm not going to pretend to know what exactly causes the issues I'm about to tell you about, and I'm not reading those 100-page documents to be able to do it either. I have other mind-numbing tasks to do later in this video. But I can tell you what a good controller did, and it's really two big things: dashbacks and shield drops. Let's start with dashbacks. You see, Melee is dumb. When you input a dash in the opposite direction your character is facing while standing, you should do a dash, right? No, you stupid fucking idiot. You see, certain controllers wouldn't register with the game fast enough, and would cause the character to do this slightly slower turnaround. Now, this may seem insignificant, but in top level Melee where one frame can make all the difference, this lost people games, and sometimes sets. Next is shield dropping. A technique.
Yeah, I'll say honestly, like this time period, like the year, 2 years, something like that, before UCF was like among the most annoying. Honestly, even like after UCF became a thing, like, you know, fixing dashbacks and shield drop, some tournaments like swapping back and forth. I mean, you had some events, right, that was running UCF. Like I remember in I think it was like 2017, and it was like you had like pretty much every other event was like UCF, and every other event was like non-UCF. It was very annoying to swap back and forth. And as people got more and more comfortable with UCF, the worse people's dashbacks probably ended up getting, because on UCF you were like expecting to always get it. But it's also like, yeah, some controllers, like all GameCube controllers, like they're not exactly made the same. So yeah, some controllers having way better dashbacks. It was crazy. I remember when I swapped my controller for the very, very first time. Like I got my first controller Christmas 04, which was a few months before my first Melee tournament. And then I used that same controller until late 2009. So that was like past Genesis 1, right? And then when I swapped controller, I was like, this controller, it's something different with it. It was, yeah, it was a very annoying experience, to say the least.
Which allows you to drop through a platform while in shield. I don't know what you explained it from me. You do this when you slowly push down on the grey stick while in shield. Seems simple. However, this is very hard to execute, and sometimes not fast enough, especially when compared to the other method to execute a shield drop, discovered by Axe, lovingly called the Axe method, where you simply do this. Much more consistent and faster as well. However, this was once again based on whether you got a good controller. As with a bad one, you would sometimes get spot dodges when you did this input. This controller variance led to top players like M2K and Armada being notorious for searching on tournament days for good controllers from their fans.
That's true.
King is even more obsessed than me when it comes to controllers.
He's
that's a bad
master.
sign.
That's a problem.
That's a huge problem.
You need rehab.
Because it's already a big problem for me.
Have you seen his little
duffel bag of controllers.
That's true.
Yes,
And he
it's
carries
here.
around-
This was just the norm for the longest time. Until
Hating
we got to
controllers
August
more
of
than me is a bad
2017,
sign.
Where we would see Dan Salvato come out with a video announcing the release of the Universal Controller.
I used to
Base,
like buy like
or
20 JP Whites in
UCF.
one go and
This
just
is
sell
a
the
stealth fix
controllers
that
with
would
bad
use a
shield
memory card
drops.
mod to slightly
Because that was the
increase
time period
frame
when people
windows
didn't care
for
about
stick
shield
detection
drops.
during these techniques. This means that even little Alex, playing on his $12.99 GameCube knockoff he got from CEX, would be able to play Melee on a kind of level playing field. This mod, while ever so slightly controversial at the time, got picked up by the community very fast, and today is standard at every event you go to, and even in your Slippy Dolphin codes. However, UCF would end up being the cause for what is now one of the most iconic controversies in Smash. IMO should be replayed. You see, later in that month of August, Shine 2017 would be happening, and it was announced to be the first major to use UCF for its tournament standard. Now, let's just jump all the way forward to top 8. We have Leffen versus Chudat in the first round of losers. The set starts off bad for Chu, going down 2-0, but he gets it together and starts playing out of his mind. In Game 4, he takes the last 2 stocks with just his solo climber, and closes out Game 5 to make the
Yeah,
reverse
Chu is honestly
3-0,
such an impressive
breaking
player.
the hearts of all the Leffen fans in the world. However, something was a little strange about the set. After the end of Game 4, Leffen did a uncharacteristic controller check. But, I mean, this wasn't too strange, so no one really made note of it at the time. However, after the set, it was made clear that UCF was not actually turned on during the set. This caused an uproar and prompted Leffen to tweet a now iconic tweet. IMO should be replayed. With how new UCF was at the time, no one really knew or understood the repercussions of what it being off would mean for the legitimacy of this set. So, in the end, they made the controversial call for Leffen and Chu to replay the whole set. People were unhappy, to say the least. And all of that hate was directed at Leffen, I assume due to the aforementioned tweet making
Oh
it
shit,
come across as
Bassmage
lobbying
making
for the
an
replay,
appearance.
where the overall public opinion seemed to be that Chu won on the standard that they've been playing on for 15 years, so why not just...
Okay, so I mean, I'll say this. I mean, yes, non-UCF was the standard for 15 years, and don't get me wrong, UCF 100% better, 100% better. But my opinion, and I think most people share the opinion, it's not really like whether like you have played that version or like vanilla Melee for 15 years. It's like once the set is over, it's over, right? It's very unfortunate if something like, you know, no UCF or 0.9, but once the set is over, I don't really think you can go back, right? Same thing is if it's like, oh, was it best of 3 or best of 5? It's like, once the set is over, it's over. I mean, I think you need to like call it out as it's going on. Leffen did do a check, you know, after Game 4, I think it was said, and didn't like point out no UCF, right? I mean, already at that point it would have been like kind of weird, but I mean, it was still like a Game 5, but I don't know. I think part of the issue sometimes with these type of like controversial situations that happens, I don't think the players should at all be in charge. I mean, it should always be just like TOs making a clear decision. It should be guidelines that always gets followed. I mean, this was many years ago now, and I imagine like this type of controversial situation may not happen again, but yeah, I don't know. I think like, because like in Smash 4 and even Ultimate, it's been like some situations with like 0.9 or Rage or whatever it's called in Ultimate. I don't even remember what it's called. It's like some type of comeback factor, but I'm kind of drawing blank now on what it's called in Ultimate. But in these type of scenarios, I feel like replaying can't really be done once the set is over, especially. I kind of have also like the perspective that whoever wins, even if it was like not under the correct rule set, they have everything to lose, right? Because they have already won, maybe they have celebrated. The person losing, now they have everything to win. So, of course, you don't want these type of situations, but results, if you have done the handshake especially, no, it should just be over.
let his result stand, especially if you checked after Game 4 and made no call to have anything fixed. But the public opinion was still split on this. However, the crowd won. People were popping off for wobbles in the next set.
There it is.
There we
The
go.
trick still worked, so it's okay.
And unlike the last set, Shu would take the lead 2-1. But as if cursed, Shu would go on to lose the set in a 2-stock in Game 5.
Leffen wins 3-2 in the run back.
Oh man.
Now I'm sure you can see what makes this moment so controversial and historic. The fact that Leffen won on the repeat, just tying it all together. However, I want to know, should it have been replayed? How much of an impact did UCF being off just have on that first set? So I set out on a crusade to finally settle the score on this moment in Melee history. To do this, I used the YouTube recording of the set to review the footage to count all of the shield drops in the set, both Leffen and Shu missed. And then dashbacks to see if either of the two had a significant advantage over the other due to their controller. Honestly, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. Do you know how tedious it is to count dashbacks? Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, luckily for me though, because UCF was new, they were still doing that thing where they like dash forward before dashing back to avoid the bad dashbacks. So there was probably less to count than there would have been in a set nowadays. And also, ice climbers don't really dash back, so thank God for that. So upon counting the dashbacks that could be affected by UCF for Leffen and Shu, Leffen did 98 dashbacks and Shu only 21. However, Leffen only missed 6 of his dashbacks, whereas Shu missed 8. That's a 32%.
That's actually pretty funny. I mean, not that it matters anywhere near as much for ICs, but it's still an interesting stat. I mean, I think also, like, yes, as a competitor, you want to win fair, or by far most competitors want to win fair, right? But I think from a mental aspect, because we're still humans, right? And I think, like, if you have already won a set, going back to the same opponent, the same set, mentally, I think very few, if any, players are going to be able to do that the same way as the first time, right? Because you have already won, right? So, like, in a situation for Chu, right? I don't think it was anywhere near like, oh, I want to win the set in a, non-legit way. But, like, mentally going back into a rematch is way harder for the person that already won. At least I think that's very clear. You have everything to lose. The other person have everything to win. So, yeah. Yeah, it was already an upset as well. It was already an upset. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, it was shown earlier, Chu would, like, rank 11. And I don't exactly remember what Leffen's rank was, but significantly higher, right? So it was still an upset as well. So, yeah. I think very few people mentally would have been anywhere near the same as they would have been in the first set. So, yeah. Yeah, thank God we just have, like, UCF, and, like, it doesn't seem to have been any more issue like this since this set, but still.
To these stats I noticed upon collecting them. See, the way Chu moves, and maybe ice climbers in general, is interesting. When wave dashing, if he wants to do an action facing the opposite direction, because the wave dash is so long, he can just hold that direction during the wave dash and not dash to turn around. And this happens quite a bit during their set. So if this is a habit of his, a good few of those missed dashbacks might have just looked like missed dashbacks, but could have very well just been his muscle memory turning him around before dashing. This, along with the small sample size, makes it a pretty hard nut to crack. But even if only 2 of those were legitimate failures, then I mean, it's still worse than Leffen's controller in that department. However,
I mean, I think that's part of the thing though, right? The player shouldn't be able to say yes or no, because then you put, like, Twitter backlash and stuff like that on the players, right? It should be TOs, clear guidelines. This is the rule, and it doesn't matter what your name is, right? It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter what the set count was. It should always be, like, clear rules. So hypothetically, if such a scenario like this happened again, the set is finished, then it should be a clear rule. This happens. No discussions, not up to the players to come to an agreement, because you shouldn't be putting the players in that type of situation. It should be a unified rule set. This is what TOs do across the whole world. So, in my opinion, if something like this ever happened again, if the set is over, then it's finished. That's it. No discussion. No IMO should be replayed. No, not up to the players to swap it around. Like, it should be unified, because we all know how incredibly toxic a lot of places online can be. So it should be a set rule set, and that applies to everyone, no matter who you are. No matter who won, no matter who lost, unified rule set, that's it.
Dashbacks are clearly more important to Fox than Ice Climbers, just based on these pure quantities. But let's move on to shield drops. For shield drops, it was actually fairly shocking. Leffen only executed 6 shield drops, and Chu only 3. And only Leffen missed a shield drop. Now, my thinking is that, 1, there was 2 games played on FD, dramatically reducing the sample size, and 2, the matchup means that ICs won't really try and challenge the platforms all that much, as it's where they're weakest. Along with this being a new mod, shield drops were really not at the same level of prominence as they are now, shown by Leffen when dropping through the top platform would very often choose to jump and then drop through with a move as opposed to shield dropping. This data does make coming to a conclusion pretty difficult. An argument for the
it's still like a very small sample
would be that
size.
its clear tube isn't as effective.
But yeah,
by
it's
UCF
not really going to be
due
the matchup with the most
severe
shield
lack
drops,
of
maybe.
actions that UCF would even
but-
affect for him. However, even if that is the case, the reality is that they were both disadvantaged by this pretty equally in their controller department. So, in the end, this still comes to quite a hard crossroads, where there really isn't a clear answer. So, before I get to my opinion, just let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, let's keep it civil, alright? In the end, this was just a major TO slip-up that no one was happy about. I mean, so let's not flame the people for a nearly 6-year-old set. But my opinion, after collecting this data and watching the set about 4 times to collect it, I think the result probably should have stood. Before
Yes.
this, I don't think I would have
100%.
said that, but watching the set, I think Chu just played better. And Leffen's play didn't really seem all that affected by UCF, just based on his habits during the set. So I guess I could say that IMO, it shouldn't have been replayed. God, that is an awful joke to end this video.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the verdict. Should not have been replayed, and as we said, or as I said, my opinion, unified rule set, no discussion, not up to the players, and if any unfortunate thing, UCF, knockback ratio, or damage ratio rather, anything like that happens and it's wrong, if the set is played, result should still stand, no matter who wins, no matter who loses. Please let me know. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my take, or do you have a different one? Make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. It was a fun, interesting, good video. A lot of research as well, checking out how many dashback and shield drops were actually done in the game. So props for that. Props for that.